Hey guys!
Hi, this is Mark and
This is Michelle and this is Mark.
and this is episode
I think it's 34. We haven't checked.
4.
Well, here, let's see what this was.
Yeah, let's look at that.
That might tell us.
Okay, maybe not. 33.
32. No, we're past 30. No,
I think,
33 or 34. We'll have to figure it out.
does it matter?
No, right now it doesn't matter. When we post it, you'll know, and then we'll know. So anyway.
So we just came off of Thanksgiving here in the USA.
Yes.
And so how did we deal with Thanksgiving, which is traditionally turkey? Help me out here.
Yeah, turkey, a whole roasted turkey. I imagine everybody else in the English-speaking world knows what American Thanksgiving is like, but just in case you don't.
Just in case.
A whole roasted turkey or a
Mashed
smaller
potatoes,
turkey to a big turkey. Mashed potatoes with turkey,
butter,
giblet gravy, butter, stuffing, which is in the American South where I grew up and pretty much close to where she grew up, is the stuffing is made out of cornbread and white bread with chicken broth in it and sage and onions and things like
You're
that.
making my mouth water.
Yeah, I know. Well, we're talking about it, so control your watering. And, but that cranberry sauce, all kinds of stuff like that. Pumpkin pie, apple pie, pecan pie, things like that. Things that, well, to be honest, aren't fresh living foods.
Right, they're not living foods.
And
you forgot the sweet potatoes with the
sweet potatoes with the
marshmallow
the
topping.
candied yams we used to call them, which would have probably corn syrup in them and marshmallows as little tiny mini marshmallows as a topping and that kind of stuff.
Or big ones.
Or big ones. I only remember the little ones. But anyway, crazy stuff like that. I mean, stuff that is traditional American food, North American food, but at the same time, stuff that doesn't really do anything for you. Hey, viewer, there's one viewer, and they disappeared. That's okay. They're waiting for it to end. Anyway, but all of that stuff, while fun to eat,
it's not good for your liver.
No, it's not good for your liver.
Especially if you're trying to heal from illnesses.
Exactly. And the reason we talk quite a bit about the liver is because we've since found that for the both of us especially, and others as well, and this is in the medical medium's diet, that liver being your biggest detoxing organ, you have to detox that. And then pretty much everything else will take care of itself. I mean, while I healed my gut, medical medium made a good point. If your liver is backed up with all those toxins could be dumped into your gut again over a period of time, no matter how much you've healed, and damage it again, which makes good sense, at least logically.
Then how did we deal with it? Well, we made this amazing spice cake out of chickpea flour.
We did. That was our dessert to take over my mom and dad's for Thanksgiving. And we ate at Whole Foods only because my mom has been sick the past few years, and she really can't cook like she used to. So my brother-in-law and he and I were the ones. My brother-in-law's from South Carolina, and so he's got lots of good Southern recipes floating around in his head. And then so do I, because I grew up in Georgia and North Carolina. But so we didn't cook either because we were just like, so what? So we went to Whole Foods.
Yeah, that can cater to every diet.
And almost every, unless you're as strict as us, in which case it kind of does, but not as much as we like.
Salad.
Well, salad. And salad on Thanksgiving.
Salad on Thanksgiving.
And
but amazing spice cake, and then I made the wild blueberry cranberry apple sauce.
Yes, and that was good too.
Was really
Those
good.
were our desserts.
And that was a medical medium recipe.
That was?
It was.
Okay. But the chickpea.
But the spice cake,
The chickpea.
We made that up.
The spice cake, we actually took a couple of recipes, one from an old British cookbook, and
one from the quiche.
Yeah, one from the medical medium's quiche, which uses chickpea flour for the quiche instead of eggs. And then we combined those two recipes and wound up with an amazingly good spice cake.
It was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was fun.
So
that's how we dealt with Thanksgiving.
You have to, for those of you who cook, you really have to find alternate substitutes.
Right.
And for those of you who are on the GAPS diet or something similar, as long as your folks aren't allergic to nuts, you can use nut flours for cakes and breads and stuff like that, pies. Like almond flour. You won't find the
Coconut
pecan
flour.
flour, but you can use coconut flour. Chickpea flour was another alternative that we came across a few weeks ago.
But it's not. I don't know if that's GAPS legal.
It might not be GAPS. Well, it's a legume.
Yeah, it might be.
Chickpeas are.
Yeah,
they're starchy though, so they may not be legal on the GAPS until like stages 3 and 4,
yeah.
until you can until your body can assimilate it. So for those of you on GAPS, hi other viewer. For those of you on GAPS, the chickpea might be fine for you later on. But we found the chickpea flour a few weeks ago, and we've been using it.
Surprised by it. It makes great pancakes. And
She's
I'm also
making little blueberry pancakes.
Yeah, I've been trying to be fat-free or almost fat-free. Yesterday I had a lot of fat, and I was like, well, it was so much.
Yeah, that's where the full feeling and bloat comes from at Thanksgiving, for all you folks who want to know.
It was just pizza that
It's all the fat.
that had 2 tablespoons. Was it 2 tablespoons?
It was just 2
oil?
tablespoons of olive oil and the tiny bit of olive oil I used to grease the rolling pin so it wouldn't stick to the
and
cutting
then olives. And I was like, I can't eat this. It's so weird. Anyway.
Yeah, but she got full.
I've learned that water frying is a thing. It wasn't just me making that up.
Well, we were watching videos on a restaurant. We saw a video on a restaurant who uses water frying.
Water frying.
For some of their foods, although I don't know what it was. But so Michelle was vindicated.
I'm not
vindication,
stupid.
right? Well, and it really works really pretty well on these pancakes in a nonstick skillet.
Yeah.
So, but we've done that. But another thing we wanted to talk about today, along with the diets and the Thanksgiving, is how do you handle, well, first of all, holidays and being on autism diets.
Right.
Okay. That's going to be important for you guys because you're trying to change your kids' lives. You're trying to change your own lives. You are trying to grab a hold of your health. And so to start with, the first and most important thing is you really have to learn how to become comfortable with saying thank you, but no thanks.
Yes. And bring your own food.
Mm-hmm. And my parents and my sister and her husband, they've been really accommodating with that. My in-laws, they have been too. And so it's wonderful to have people who support you. Now, that is something that you're going to have to come to grips with first. Being comfortable with being on the diets and knowing that it's better for you to be healthy than to be dead.
Right.
Or, sick, sick and you want to be dead.
Or a meltdown.
Or a meltdown from your kids.
Because you ate something.
Well, and that happened a few years ago. My some relatives brought one of their children who was definitely on the spectrum, kind of moderate, and they fed him something, and it was terror, and it was a bad situation for the little guy and for them because they knew he was autistic, but didn't make the connection between food and diet, and it was a complete meltdown. Being sprayed with a hose, screaming and yelling and throwing things and all that kind of stuff. So you have to first be comfortable with your health and finding that it's more important for you to be healthy than to eat your culturally programmed food, so to speak.
Right, and it is programming.
Agreed.
But it is psychological programming as well.
Well, but
let's talk about that.
Well, but it's psychological programming in the sense that your culture says, well, here's what you have to have a proper Thanksgiving, or here's what you have to have a proper Easter meal, or whatever. And those are great, but if they're making you sick, they're not all that great, to be honest. I mean, they're not to me.
Right.
And if you're trying to heal, honestly, they're not all that great for you either.
So you have to get yourself to a point where you're strong enough to stand up for yourself.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean you have to be mean or nasty about it, but just say, hey, look, I appreciate it. And I know some of you folks have families that are really pushy with food. My family is Scots-Irish, and food is what life revolves around. And I think that's the case for other ethnicities as well. Germans as well. I mean, my dad's side of the family was German and that kind of stuff. But you get, so much of our life revolves around food. So you just have to come to the point to where you're comfortable being healthier than being sicker.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is the first thing, being comfortable with who you are and what you're doing. The second thing is finding alternatives to your traditional foods.
Right.
And to give you an example, I was born here in Oklahoma. That's where Michelle and I live now, Oklahoma City. But I was raised in the Southeast. Now, in the Southeast, in the American South, like Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, places like that, the food is excellent food. Don't get me wrong. But just like any food anywhere, too much of it is unhealthy for you. Well, one thing that I missed here in Oklahoma that I didn't get so much in the South, which I hardly ever saw, was chicken fried steak. You can get chicken fried steak sandwiches. You can get chicken fried steaks. You can get chicken fried steaks. You can get, and basically all a chicken fried steak is, for those of you who don't know, it's a thin cube steak that's been hammered until it's about 1/4 of an inch thick.
Beef.
Then it's beef. Mm-hmm. And then it's double battered in fried chicken batter, for lack of a better that's really the best way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's battered a second time, and then it's deep fried. So there's like twice the amount of batter than there is steak. You have to dig for the steak. And but then we make sandwiches out of it. Well, not me, but they anymore.
Yeah.
But they make sandwiches out of it. They make whole dinners out of it. Dessert out of it. It sounds strange, but I'm sure there is. Hey, Shirley.
Hi, Shirley.
How are you? And so anyway, that is something that I missed. So my alternative, instead of using the white flour
when
batter,
we were on gaps,
when we were doing the gaps, was to get almond flour. And so I would coat it in almond flour and egg and fry that. Man, that was good. That satisfied that craving for chicken fried steak.
But now we're on medical medium.
Now we're on the medical medium. So I can't do that with a banana.
No, not with a banana.
I mean, there's just chickpea dough, double battered banana and chickpea. No, I'm not seeing it. But anyway, so alternatives.
But you have gotten to the point where you're okay not having it as much as you were before.
Oh, well, yeah, exactly, because I've gotten over the craving, so to speak.
Right.
And so, and cravings are an issue. We'll talk about that later at some other point, because that's a whole nother show. Medical Medium has a couple of whole shows at least on cravings and how to deal with them. And have I conquered all mine? No. But as disciplined as she is, she pretty much conquers hers all the time. So, except for the pizza. You had pizza we had pizza.
I think we could make a pizza crust out of chickpea
and
flour without any oil.
Yeah, we probably could. And just lightly oil. Well, no, we use parchment paper for the crust.
Yes.
Yeah, we could do that. So, well, and there you go. There's an alternative.
Try.
If you're doing fat-free like Michelle's doing, and I mean, it's fat-free. I mean, there's no oil. There's no hidden oils.
Nuts.
No nuts. Yeah, another hidden oil.
No avocado.
No avocado. She's doing absolutely no plant fat.
Except yesterday I did.
Except she did. And so that makes for a tougher time cooking.
Yes.
But what you use to keep things from sticking, parchment paper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wax paper, no. You can't use wax paper because wax is a fat. And it may not even be an animal fat anymore. I think they were getting wax from whale oil and whale blubber, but now they probably just make it for plants, but still it's a fat. So you can't use, wow, wind's really blowing here.
Oh, I did just get a notice that we had a wind advisory.
Okay. Well, if you live in Oklahoma, you'll learn to live with the wind and tornadoes. But so no wax paper, but alternatives, parchment paper.
Right.
And it works really well. You just coat the inside, you just cut out a circle to cover the bottom of your quiche pan or whatever you're doing, and it won't stick. So that, or for instance, if you don't saute things. So what you do, instead of using olive oil to saute something, here's an example, mushrooms for the tomato sauce that I make. I just slice up the mushrooms and I put them in a pan on medium heat. They release some of their juices, and when they do, they start cooking. Well, you just keep stirring them until they're all cooked and all their juices have reduced, and that juice is reduced around to the outside and formed a nice well, kind of like a gravy, but it sticks to the outside of each mushroom. So you get all that flavor in there. And you don't really need oil. You can take your tomato sauce and you can start heating up the tomatoes and all your spices and herbs and things like that and sweetener. And then you can throw what you want to cook in the tomato sauce into the tomato sauce and let it cook in the finished tomato sauce. You don't need any oil for that. So, there are alternatives. I can answer those questions for you if you need, and we can always troubleshoot.
So you said number one was
be comfortable with who you are and what you're trying to do.
Number two is
health-wise. Number two is look for alternatives in your cooking.
Is there a number three?
Well, I'm sure I can come up with that. Let's do traveling, because that's important. We did the GAPS diet for 4.5 years.
And we made some trips.
And we did trips. We went to New Mexico a couple of times. St. Louis a few times. A couple different places in Missouri as well. Went to New Orleans. Now, we didn't do New Orleans on the GAPS diet. We did that on the medical medium. But we'll get to that. But let's talk about, for those of you who are on a diet that requires a lot of cooking, like the GAPS or the SCD or any of the others, which I'm not really all that familiar with. But here's what you do. If you're on GAPS and you have to have broth, then what you do is you freeze your broth in small batches. Now, like a quart or half a quart.
Did you use bags?
No, well, I was getting to that.
Oh yeah, you put them in containers.
We didn't use bags. You don't want to use bags because then you'll just slosh over and it's easy to get a hole in a bag. So you find quart containers with the snappable lids. And you know what? Even this is not a quart container, but the one that's double this size. This is what I call a deli container. That is 16 ounces. So if you double that, you get a quart or a liter. For those of you folks in the metric system, you get nearly a liter, and you can leave a little bit of room at the top, put the lid on, and freeze it. And then what you do is all your broth, after it's frozen, you get a cooler like this. This is an igloo cooler. I don't know if you can see it really well, but this one holds, about 4 gallons. And we can put at least 1 gallons of water in there, and then probably a whole nother. So it might be 3 to 4 gallons.
I think we had 2 coolers when we went on those trips.
We probably did. Oh, we had a styrofoam.
Yeah, we had a styrofoam. Yeah.
So we had 2 coolers. And
that was for 2 people.
That was. And what you do is you freeze your broth, and then you can keep all your fermented dairies and any of your other things, yogurt and that type of stuff, butter, other fats that need to stay cold. You can keep them cold with your frozen broth in your cooler.
Yeah, you don't need the icy things.
Exactly. And what we did is we found extended stay places that had tiny kitchenettes, like 2 electric burners, a hood, and a couple of cabinets. And we just heated up the broth and added the fermented dairy, and they had a little tiny cutting board. I took a couple of knives just in case. I even took a cutting board.
Yeah.
But you have all that stuff in the extended stay kitchen, and they're really not any more expensive than a regular hotel room. Ours in Albuquerque was $60.
Right. And in our trip to New Orleans, when we were on medical medium, I used Airbnbs and specified that I wanted a kitchen. So.
Right.
That's how
you can do that on Airbnbs, apparently.
Yeah, filters on there.
So let's see. So in New Orleans, we stayed in, what was that? It was called the Green something.
The Okra Inn.
The Okra Inn.
That was cool.
It was a really cool place run by a lady in her 30s and her husband who lived next door. And it was an old Victorian house in New Orleans. And they divided the house, and then there were rooms upstairs, and then a big living room downstairs, and kitchen at the foot of each one of the stairs.
Right.
And so the kitchens, hey Jody, how are you?
Hi Jody.
And the kitchens had a regular size stove in it, 4
regular
burners,
size fridge,
a cooker for those of you folks who, and
so we were able to put, in every house we stayed, we were able to use a refrigerator to keep our stuff cold.
Exactly. And then they had dishes, and you could use those. They had pots to heat things up in. But we were on medical medium when we stayed in New Orleans. And Then we stayed in a lady's house in Pensacola, Florida. Was it Pensacola?
It was near there.
Yeah, it was near
Gulf
Pensacola.
Shores.
Gulf Shores. And so we stayed in her house, and she allowed us to use her kitchen. But we didn't need to heat anything up because we were doing medical medium.
It was more of the blender. And
Well, it was the blender, but we didn't even bring the blender.
we didn't even bring the
we didn't
blender.
take the
What
blender.
did we use the kitchen for?
That's what I'm going on to next. Now, slow down, Speedy. She's always moving faster than everybody else. Anyway, but here's how you can plan the logistics out. That'll be number 4. First one was be comfortable with who you are and find your health more important than food. The second one was, what was the second one?
Alternatives.
Oh, yeah, alternatives. Yeah, alternatives in your cooking. Like parchment paper instead of oil to coat dishes.
Pancakes made out of
chickpea flour. Alternative flours like nut flours, if you can handle those. Or other starchy flours like rice flour or potato flour, something like that. Then number 3 was traveling on autism diets. Now, we've talked about a little bit of traveling, but we're going to give you number 4 is the logistics of traveling. See, she loves the planning part. So she knew, we're going to need kitchens, right? Well, we also looked at, because you've got the world at your fingertips on the internet here, and because you do, you can find out all the things that are around where you're staying easily, just like that. So we knew grocery stores were near us. I worked for Whole Foods here in Oklahoma City, but then we found out where the Whole Foods were. So what did we do? In the 2 or 3 days that we were in New Orleans, we ate at every Whole Foods in New Orleans had. That was a total of 3.
But
and we ate at them all in one day.
Right. We also stocked up for our trip to Pensacola because we knew there wasn't a Whole Foods there.
Well, exactly.
So we planned that trip. So
you want to talk about that
we
part?
didn't have to take everything with us because we could buy it while we were there.
Right. And did we do totally organic?
No.
Because as medical medium says, don't worry about the organic
He says
so
it's
much.
the best if you can do it, but
Right.
don't worry if you can't.
Right. He said, so if you can't, you're going to heal anyway on the fruit. So just do the fruit. Just find nice looking fruit. And so that's what we did. So in New Orleans, before we left to go to Florida, we stopped at Whole Foods. We even stopped, I think the place was called Rouse's, a grocery store.
Oh, yeah.
That was in downtown New Orleans, and that was a really good grocery
That
store
was
too.
fun.
They didn't have much in the way of organic, but they had bottles of water and stuff like that. And this was back in May, so it was a little warm and humid in New Orleans, which that was fun too. But so we stopped, and we got bananas and oranges. We ate lots of oranges on the trip. We ate lots of bananas on the trip. We ate lots of grapes on the trip.
Grapes are so easy in the car.
Well, and apples and grapes really keep down inflammation. I see a lot of talk now, and I knew it was inflammation when we started the GAPS. I just didn't know the connection of inflammation and autism when we started. That was 5.5 years ago. But that isn't all there is to autism. It's just inflammation.
Oh, no.
By no means. But between grapes and apples and what was the other thing? Well, grapes and apples at least. The quercetin in both of those fruits really helps out your inflammation. So if you're eating lots of fruit and eating lots of oranges and lots of bananas, that's easy to find and take with you.
Yes, you can find a lot of that at a convenience store. So
well, yeah, even at a convenience store if you have to.
Yeah.
You can find at least bananas and oranges usually.
That he does suggest strongly to get our organic grapes.
Okay. Well, and that's the thing. So what you'll need to do is just a little bit of extra planning. Not that you guys don't know how to do that. You're working with an autistic loved one, so you know how to plan. But find out where you want to stay. If you need a kitchenette, plan for that. Then after that, look for all of the food places around you and know where they're at, how far they are, and know where you want to go. Because then you have your sources readily available.
And also always have food with you that's okay for your diet so that you're like not dying hungry and jump into McDonald's.
Well, see, and that's That is a very important point, because we'll put that on the cravings program as well, because I think that's important, especially for cravings.
At that time, we were eating the Larabars. I've quit because they have nuts in them, so I'm trying to do fat-free. And I'll go back to them at some point when I feel like my liver's happy again.
Right.
But that's an easy thing to keep in your purse.
A Larabar?
A Larabar.
Yeah, a Larabar. I've got one. Hold on. So I'll show you what they are.
He's going to go get one. Should I play Jeopardy music?
Why not?
Do, 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 do,
All right, show them a Larabar.
Boom, boom.
Yep, that is a Larabar. And in this case, this is the pecan pie one.
And these are so good. Oh my goodness. Well, here's what's in it. Dates, pecans, almonds. That's it.
Those three ingredients. And dates are the biggest ingredient, which according to the medical medium, will actually calm cravings.
Yes, it's the best thing. You crave pizza? Eat a date.
Exactly.
If you crave alcohol, eat a date.
Yeah, eat a few dates. Not girls you bring home.
No,
but,
you know those things.
Yeah, but the fruit. Or Larabars, one or two Larabars.
Yeah.
Sure, these are like $1.49. But when you really need something to calm a craving, and you can't find dates, and you can find one of these, do this. Definitely. And there's 20-something flavors.
Yeah, that's fun.
There's lots. So again, always plan where you want to stay, and if it has the cooking facilities you need, then look for all of the food resources around you, grocery stores, farmers markets, that kind of thing. That way, you know what you can get and where you can get. Because if there's a Whole Foods, and for those of you who do the Nemechek protocol, the oils and the inulin and stuff like that, I know of at least 2 places that you can find all of those in one store. A Whole Foods, and if you can't find a Whole Foods, a natural grocer. If you can't find either 2 of those, try Sprouts. So just keep in mind, you just have to do a little bit of planning, but you can find the inulin and the fish oils and the olive oils pretty easily, and definitely at a Whole Foods or a natural grocer. So try those 2 places first. Just plan ahead a little bit.
Well, and then we were walking around New Orleans and everything smells so good. We had to make sure we weren't hungry walking around down there.
So I carried a backpack that had fruit and stuff in it.
Yeah.
Oranges, bananas, things like that.
Yeah.
And now we did eat off the diet a little bit.
A little bit, but we planned what we ate off the diet.
Exactly.
We didn't give into anything.
Well, and
it shows what we were going to do.
Being in New Orleans, and that was my first time being there. There was no way I was leaving without eating Cajun food. So, and one night we stopped. It was like 10:30, and I got some real jambalaya and real andouille sausage and stuff like that, and I ate that. And then we had seafood once in Florida.
Right. That was where I splurged.
Yeah.
Because nothing tastes as good as shrimp on the coast.
Agreed. And I won't eat seafood unless I'm on the coast. So that was how we planned that. But it just takes a little bit of planning to stay on the diet. So look for a place that has kitchen facilities as far as traveling goes. Look for all your food resources around that. When you're touring around a place, walking around a place, something like that, always have food on you so that you won't get into cravings. And as we said, dates are the best resource to
for medical
curb
medium.
Cravings for medical medium, or fat for you folks who are on the GAPS diet. That will too. So you could use butter, or if not that, coconut oil, because at least that will stay. You can even drink a tiny bit of that. But or the Larabars, for those of you folks on the medical medium, because that's mostly dates. But anyway, anything else you want to
No.
talk? Yeah, I think we covered
They even
most everything.
got me to sing. So
Well,
This is a pretty good one.
I think we were a little high energy today.
Oh, we have to show you why.
Okay.
We found these.
They're inserts for your shoes, in case anyone doesn't know. They're arch inserts. And yeah, here.
I can't believe how different I feel.
And the brand
is
Walk Fit.
here.
There we go. Walk Fit. And they give you little, these are modifiable.
I felt them change my foot. And in turn, I felt every bone in my body popping. It's pretty weird.
Yeah, they're really hard arches.
And I feel amazing today.
Yep.
I've been thinking I should feel better than this on this diet. What's wrong with me? And I started having trouble getting up out of chairs. I'm like, what is this? My arches were so messed up, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Well, and mine too. I walk all the time. So walking, so you constantly have to replace either my shoes or the arches in my shoes.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, we did that and we feel a lot better. But this particular episode of This Is Mark and Michelle is very high energy, near ADHD. So you might have to rewatch parts of it to get the information. But this is all good information.
Okay, so we'll let you get away from our energy.
Yeah, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Goodbye.